You know what the #1 job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is?
What?
Is to act like it didn't happen. They all do the same job.
I've passed my humiliation ritual with all honors, with flying colors. But the only difference between my humiliation ritual and a lot of others is I was walking with God the whole time. Being deeply rooted in prayer, deeply in search of answers, and deeply rooted and grounded in the palms of his hands through the process of this whole humiliation.
It started with one line that froze the room. Not a diss track, not a rumor, just a calm confession from Katt Williams, a man who's seen every side of fame. The moment he mentioned a humiliation ritual, social media lit up. People weren't just reacting to what he said, they were reacting to how he said it. Like someone finally saying out loud what others whisper in private. He didn't laugh, he didn't wink, he just laid it out there. And that's what made it powerful, because when a veteran of the industry, someone who's survived public breakdowns, canceled shows, and endless headlines, looks into the camera and says he's been through the ritual, it forces you to ask, if he's telling the truth, what exactly did he see? And what does that mean for someone like NLE Choppa, a young artist still building his name in a world that demands silence before success?
You know what the #1 job of somebody that sold their soul in Hollywood is?
What?
Is to act like it didn't happen. They all do the same jobs. That's all you know me for, is that I'm quite likely to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times, just to protect my integrity and that virgin I was telling you about. Right, because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did.
I never made that complex list. I just want to let you know something, man. Your ass need to go do rock and roll or some other shit. I swear to God, 21, 18 platinum, 6 or 7 gold. Go look at the certifications. Let me know who beat me, bro.
The moment that clip hit social media, chaos followed. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Some fans defended Katt, saying he's always been brutally honest about the darker side of the industry. Others called it just another Hollywood conspiracy. But regardless of what people believed, one thing was clear: the energy shifted. For years, people joked about selling your soul for fame. But Katt's tone made it sound less like folklore and more like a system, one that rewards silence and punishes anyone who breaks it. When he tied that idea to NLE Choppa's rise, it wasn't just gossip anymore. It became a cultural debate, because Choppa's come up looked clean. No scandals, no breakdowns, just rapid success. But now, fans were asking, was it really that simple? It's that kind of question that keeps people scrolling, replaying, and speculating. Because even if you don't believe in rituals, you can't deny one truth. Fame always comes with a price tag. The only question is, who's paying it?
I wanted to not necessarily apologize, but I wanted to explain like where my head at and where it's been for like the last week. So first of all, when I did the artwork, I knew like there would be some upset people or whatnot, simply because, you know, religion is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. But I also didn't mean to like mock. This wasn't like a to you people, to the Christians, like, you know, it was not that. It was literally me saying, oh, I'm back like Jesus. Like, that was like the whole thing. I'm not the first person to dress up as Jesus.
When someone like Katt Williams speaks, people listen, not because of his fame, but because he's survived what fame does to people. He's seen it from every angle. The tours, the headlines, the lawsuits, the breakdowns. So when he says there's a darker system behind the smiles, it doesn't sound like paranoia. It sounds like testimony. This is a man who's turned down millions, reportedly walked away from major deals, and refused to play along with the politics of Hollywood. So for him to admit he passed something, a so-called humiliation ritual, it painted a picture that hit too close to home for many artists watching quietly from the sidelines. They might not say it publicly, but some of them know exactly what he's hinting at, and that's where the tension begins. Is Katt Williams exposing a truth that everyone else is too afraid to touch? Or has the line between spiritual metaphor and industry reality become so blurred that people can't tell the difference anymore?
Be gay in Hollywood, you never expected. They be having these big mansion parties, and the mansion party, the whole mansion is a party, and then it's a separate party in the little rooms. I ain't been famous that goddamn long. I'm excited in a be at the mansion party. You be looking in all the goddamn rooms, and you around and look in the wrong room.
Whoever made that complex list, I just want to let you know something, man. Your ass need to go do rock and roll or some other shit. I swear to God, 21, 18 platinum, 6 or 7 gold. Go look at the certifications. Let me know who beat me, bro.
That's when the real storm began. Because the moment Katt said NLE Choppa's name, the internet turned into an investigation room. Fans started replaying old interviews, TikToks, and performances, searching for signs that maybe, just maybe, Katt was right. Some said Choppa's recent spiritual shift, his energy healing, nature retreats, and sudden image changes might be proof of him breaking free. Others claimed it was evidence of the so-called ritual Katt mentioned, an initiation wrapped in fame and mysticism. Of course, most of this was speculation, but it didn't matter. The narrative was already alive, and once the internet locks onto a theory, it doesn't let go easily. For NLE Choppa, what started as growth and personal change was now being framed as something darker. And for Katt Williams, every silence from Choppa only made his words echo louder.
I passed my humiliation ritual with all honors, with flying colors. But the only difference between my humiliation ritual and a lot of others is I was walking with God the whole time. Being deeply rooted in prayer, deeply in search of answers, and deeply rooted and grounded in the palms of his hands through the process of this whole humiliation ritual.
Most people's number one fear is public humiliation, okay? I don't give a anymore. I'm not afraid of it because I've had.
That was the moment the tone shifted. From disbelief to discomfort, because Katt wasn't yelling and he wasn't joking. He was calm, controlled, certain. He said the quiet part out loud. Fame isn't always earned. Sometimes it's bought, and not with money. That line, "Who owns you after you get there?" hit like a confession from behind the curtain. And fans couldn't ignore it, especially coming from a man who's seen both sides of Hollywood, the fame and the fallout. Online discussions started pulling names, examples, and moments where celebrities seemed to lose themselves right after they made it big. Was that coincidence or conditioning? Even though nobody can confirm what Katt meant by owning your soul, his point was clear. Once you sign, once you belong to the system, it's no longer just your story. It's their story, written through you.
And I felt like that day, I kind of released a small bit of it. And I think in the process of me releasing that, that was the first time in a long time you kind of seen that glimpse of me. But when I recorded the first video that I made of me passing my humiliation ritual, I say that to say I was extremely angry. I was not calm.
That moment right there, half humor, half honesty, said everything you needed to know about Katt Williams. He wasn't afraid to turn down what others might see as opportunity. He was hinting that sometimes the invitations, the parties, the so-called connections are actually tests. Tests of loyalty, tests of boundaries, tests of how far you'll go to belong. And when he said, "You gotta tell him no," it didn't sound like a joke anymore. It sounded like a warning, a subtle message about the choices every artist faces when fame knocks on their door. For someone like NLE Choppa, who's still in the early chapters of his story, those moments could define everything. Say yes, and you might skyrocket. Say no, and you might vanish from the spotlight entirely. That's the paradox Katt was pointing to, the illusion of freedom in an industry built on control. And when he laughs about it, you realize that laugh doesn't come from joy. It comes from experience. When Katt said, "Not every invitation is an opportunity," it hung in the air like a quiet truth people didn't want to hear. Because behind every laugh, every viral moment, and every success story, there's a version of that invitation waiting. For some, it's an after-party. For others, it's a contract. But the meaning stays the same. It's the door you walk through that changes everything. As clips of Katt's interview spread, you could feel the energy shift across the internet. The headlines got bolder, the reactions got louder, and suddenly, the story wasn't just about one comedian's words. It was about the machinery behind the spotlight itself. comment sections filled with people questioning how many of their favorite artists had walked that same invisible line. Fans started dissecting NLE Choppa's journey, not to tear him down, but to understand what Katt meant by price. The timing of it all felt too perfect. Choppa had been talking publicly about spirituality, growth, and staying grounded, trying to find peace in a business built on chaos. Yet here was Katt Williams, hinting that even enlightenment could become a brand once the industry got its hands on it. That irony wasn't lost on anyone, because if the system Katt described is real, if fame truly comes with invisible strings, then even trying to break free can become part of the show. The spiritual rebrand isn't rebellion, it's packaging, a new version of the same story, sold differently to keep audiences hooked. And that's the part of Katt's message that made people uncomfortable. It wasn't about conspiracies or rituals, it was about control. The idea that once the cameras start rolling, your authenticity becomes the product. You don't just perform anymore, you exist for performance. As the days went by, more creators started posting breakdowns, reaction videos, and even think pieces, analyzing every frame of Katt's interview. Some praised his honesty, calling him one of the last real voices in comedy. Others accused him of stirring chaos for attention. But in the noise of it all, something powerful happened. People started listening again, not just to him, but to the patterns he pointed out. The humiliation ritual became a symbol, not necessarily of secret ceremonies, but of something quieter, the public unraveling of human beings under the weight of fame. Every time an artist breaks down online, every apology video, every viral meltdown, maybe that's part of the cycle Katt was talking about. A process that strips away privacy until the only thing left is image. It's a haunting thought that humiliation isn't a punishment, but a business model. The outrage sells, the memes sell, the apology sells even more. And that's why Katt's calm delivery hit harder than any rant ever could. He wasn't screaming about evil forces. He was explaining a system that profits from pain, a loop that rewards spectacle over sanity. Meanwhile, NLE Choppa found himself in a strange position, not because he said anything wrong, but because he became a mirror. His growth, his choices, his transformation, they all reflected a bigger question. How much of what we see from young artists is them? And how much is what the industry allows them to be? Online, fans started comparing Choppa to other rappers who rose fast and seemed to change overnight. They talked about how every artist eventually faces that moment, the moment where individuality collides with marketability. Some survive it, others disappear. And in Katt's version of the story, that's not coincidence. It's structure. The deeper you look, the more you realize that what he called humiliation might not always look like public embarrassment. Sometimes it's emotional, being told to tone down who you are. Sometimes it's spiritual, being molded into something profitable. And sometimes it's silence, knowing the truth but learning you can't say it. That's why his voice carries so much weight. He's not warning artists to avoid fame. He's warning them to protect their souls once they find it. Because the system doesn't steal it all at once. It takes it slowly, with each compromise, each fake smile, each forced apology written by a PR team. Fans started connecting dots between Katt's words and other moments in entertainment history. The breakdowns we laughed at, the scandals we replayed, Britney Spears, Kanye West, Amanda Bynes, names that became memes before they were treated as human again. And suddenly, people began realizing, maybe this isn't about conspiracy. Maybe it's about survival. Katt's interview opened that door, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Because humiliation, in this sense, isn't just something that happens to celebrities. It's something the audience participates in too. Every share, every joke, every viral moment of someone else's pain, it all feeds the same machine. And in that machine, nobody wins for long. As more clips of his conversation circulated, even industry veterans started quietly nodding along. A few dropped cryptic tweets, others shared prayer hand emojis or vague captions about truth. And while nobody confirmed his claims directly, the silence spoke louder than words. In Hollywood, silence is often its own kind of confirmation. But here's where the story turns. Because even as the conversation exploded online, NLE Choppa himself kept things calm. No anger, no denial, just a subtle response about growth, creativity, and spirituality. And that restraint might have been the smartest move he could make. Because the more he stayed silent, the more the internet filled in the blanks for him. People projected meaning onto every post, every outfit, every lyric. Suddenly, every decision looked like symbolism, every word, a clue. And that's exactly how control works. The less you say, the more they build your story for you. Katt Williams knows that game too well. He's played it for years. He's watched how narratives get built, how a single clip can destroy a career or resurrect one. That's why his tone was calm. He wasn't trying to win an argument. He was planting a question in the minds of anyone paying attention. How much of what you see is real? And the truth is, even asking that question can be dangerous. Because the entertainment world runs on illusion, and the people who break that illusion often pay a price. Still, there's something poetic about how the story came full circle. Katt, a man once mocked, misunderstood, and written off, now standing as a kind of cultural oracle, warning a generation of new artists what the fine print of fame really looks like. And NLE Choppa, the young, hopeful talent, standing at the exact crossroad Katt once faced. It's not about enemies or sides, it's about reflection, a passing of truth between generations. One saying, "Be careful," the other learning in real time what that means. And maybe that's why the internet can't stop talking about it. Because behind the jokes and memes, people sense something real. They see the same system Katt described, the one that builds idols and breaks them down for profit, still alive and well. It's in the headlines we scroll past every day. It's in the way we forget today's trending scandal by tomorrow. It's in the way we watch people's lives fall apart on live streams and call it entertainment. That's the uncomfortable truth Katt left hanging in the air, that fame itself might be the ritual, and humiliation the initiation fee. As the story cooled down, what stayed wasn't outrage, it was awareness. People started paying closer attention, artists began speaking more carefully, and fans, at least some, started to question what they were really supporting when they clicked share. Because if Katt is right, even a little, then the entire system thrives not on music or movies, but on the spectacle of breakdowns. That's why this conversation hit deeper than gossip. It wasn't about calling anyone out. It was about calling the audience in, forcing us to see what we've been clapping for all along. And maybe that's why, years from now, this clip will still circulate, not because it's scandalous, but because it's timeless. It's a warning disguised as a joke, a truth told softly enough to slip past the noise, but sharp enough to stay lodged in your mind. So as the lights fade and the conversation drifts into new headlines, one question remains, a quiet one, but powerful enough to echo through the culture. Do you think the reaction was justified? Or did Katt Williams simply say what everyone else was too afraid to admit? And don't go anywhere. Click the next video you see on your screen for even more juicy celebrity chaos, betrayals, and stories Hollywood doesn't want you to know. See you in the next one.